Hey everyone, welcome to another exciting episode of the Scratch Shark Podcast presented by the Dude and Grim Show. I am the Dude.
And I am Grim, and today is a big one. Today is the one and only Exile on Main Street by the Rolling Stones.
Whoa.
Yeah.
We will not...
I mean, I know
Grim,
it's a double vinyl. It just feels heavy.
It's heavy. Is that 180 gram? Are they 180 grams? I bet they are.
I think they probably are. And I'm actually going to get them out because as we get into some stuff here, there's going to be some very important facts that come from the jackets here of this record.
Yes. Muy importante.
That was left on the Wikipedia entry.
Oh, wow. Well, Grim, I think speaking of Exile, that is exactly what we don't want to do here on this channel. What we do want to do is we want to invite you and everyone watching and listening to subscribe. So give us a like, subscribe, and comment below. And definitely give us a comment below. Let us know what you think about this Rolling Stones album. Some people consider it. Some critics consider it. Lots of people consider it their best album. Do you consider it their best album? Is it your favorite album? Let us know below.
I do. I'm going to go out there and say it is my favorite of theirs. Although Beggar's Banquet's pretty awesome too.
Yeah, well, this one for me, it's between Sticky Fingers and this one.
Sticky Fingers is also a really good one.
You know, we've talked about this. This one, Tattoo Me. So this one was released in 1972, and they had a string. This is, to me, just like the sweetest classic Stones. These 4 albums, starting with Beggar's Banquet. Let It
Bleed. I forgot about that one.
Sticky Fingers, and then Exile on Main Street. I just, that to me is just them at their peak, their prime.
Yep.
I don't know how many other ways to say it. It's just my favorite era and period of them creatively. And I just think they just did some exceptional work during that time. I mean, those 4 albums are my 4 favorite albums of theirs.
Oh, easy.
By far.
Easy.
And then I would say Tattoo You.
Yeah.
I would probably, then Tattoo You. But I also, this album, it's a strange album for a variety of reasons. I think we'll get into that. It mixes a lot of different styles. It does some things that they really hadn't kind of explored and done before. A lot of it, what really stands out initially is the use of the horns on this album. They really used it and used them well.
Well, yeah, and hats off to Bobby Keys there. But one of the interesting things in watching the Stones in Exile, I believe it was the guy who was the photographer and got a lot of this footage. I think he's a French guy, and
I remember that.
Yeah,
that's great photos.
Oh yeah, and he mentioned that the Stones were not just this 5-piece band, especially during this period. There were, you had Nicky Hopkins, who played a lot of piano for him. Ian Stewart played some piano. You even brought in some other people doing some Keys stuff later on. But dude, think of some of the other work Bobby Keys had done. Right. Like Can't You Hear Me Knocking? He was like,
might be my favorite Stones song.
Yeah, he's like the Rolling Stones' 5th Beatle, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I really would say that for him more so than anybody.
Yeah, well, and even, one of the guys who did play with the Beatles, who also played on this album, Billy Preston. And not only his playing, but he was very influential in the gospel.
Oh, yeah.
Aspects of this album, because when they were in LA kind of mixing and doing some overdubbing, he took Mick to like Sunday service, and that really got Mick going on some of these gospel sounds. So you have these beautiful background vocals and harmonies. They're just outstanding. And it's very cool that, Billy Preston was so influential in that.
Yeah. And I guess I have to correct this. I'm not going to say Wikipedia was wrong by any means. Somebody did put in the correct thing. I just didn't see it at first because I would have thought that he got credited for playing a piano or an organ part. But there is a gentleman who is listed as Mac Rebenak, and he does background vocals on Let It Loose. Other people might know him by his musician name as Dr. John.
Dr. John, that's right.
Because I read earlier in the article and it said that they were preparing stuff for Billy Preston and Dr. John. Then I thought, dude, Dr. John is not credited until I read his
right.
God-given name, which is Mac Rebenak. And I thought that was interesting because in parallel to that, he recorded an album and released it in 1971 called The Sun, the Moon, and Herbs. And both Bobby Keys and Mick Jagger appear on that album.
Ooh, fun. It's like, you rub my back, I'll rub yours, right?
Yeah. And it's cool because Mick Jagger does background vocals and you can very distinctly hear him.
Tell it's Mick.
Yeah. So anyways, I think that's cool.
Well, so, Billy, I mean, we'll talk about this maybe a little more when we get into the tracks, but I see that Billy Preston's only credited with playing on Shine a Light. And it looks like Nicky Hopkins, they give a lot of it says keyboards, but he plays a lot of the piano on this album too.
He does.
When I was doing research for the individual tracks, it kind of stood out, but just if you look at the album, it just kind of says Nicky Hopkins keyboards.
Yeah, because I think there were some different ones. I mean, he definitely plays the Wurlitzer electric piano on Just Want to See His Face.
Yeah.
And you can hear a lot of acoustic piano throughout the album too. I don't know. I guess maybe there is also piano in Shine a Light, but the organ part is a little behind in the mix, but it's a hot organ part. Like Billy Preston had to play that.
Yeah, of course. I don't expect any other. It's interesting. We just talked about this being sort of the Stone, like our favorite Stones album. I think a lot of critics have said that. I believe in 2003, Rolling Stone's top 500 albums, this was number 7. I think most recently in the 2020 updated version, I want to say it was 13 or 14 from what I read.
Okay.
And the thing that's interesting about it is not that it doesn't have hits, because Tumbling Dice is a hit, but it doesn't have a hit sort of the classic rock radio hit.
I know
you might hear that on there, but it doesn't. I mean, when you think about the previous albums, right? You have songs like Gimme Shelter, Can't Always Get What You Want, Street Fighting Man, Brown Sugar, Sympathy for the Devil. It doesn't have a song like that on this album.
I know.
And yet, but I think it's just so well rounded. That's really what I really like about it. And
I think it showcases what they could do with kind of roots music in the blues better than anything. Because I'm not going to say an argument, but we used to kind of back and banter forth, my wife and I, about, she would say Stones or Beatles.
Oh, Stones.
I got to say Beatles, but my caveat is no one could ever do the blues as good as the Stones. None of the other bands sounded more authentic than the Rolling Stones to do the way they did American, like their kind of take on American country music and the blues. I don't think there's any other band that could touch that.
Yeah, that's just like it's a tough thing I feel like, I'll call myself an adult here. I feel like as an adult, I put on the Stones a lot more than I put on the Beatles now.
Yeah, sure.
That's just what I do. If somebody asks me the questions, Beatles or Stones, I'm going to be that jerk who's like, oh, I can't decide. But it's almost like I need more caveats. Like I'm like, well, how?
Yeah, I understand. And I just think for the sake of just pushing music to another plateau, I don't think you can argue the Beatles. But the Beatles like to mess around with the blues too, but they could not do it like the Stones. They just couldn't.
Not like this. Yeah, not like this.
And I like it because while other bands during this time were trying to take the blues into like psychedelic territory, kind of, they were more authentic with it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, especially this album, it's just so raw. And I mean, we'll get into the recording process, I think, a little bit, with how you shoot. And, we'll get into that a little bit. And how it was recorded probably added to that rawness a little bit. But I think before we just jump into that, the sort of the story behind this was for the most part, they didn't have a lot of money at this point. They were in legal battles with Alan Klein, who basically screwed them, who was sort of their manager. Story behind that kind of goes, he renegotiated the Stones contract with their current record company, which was Decca. And basically he got them a $1.25 million advance for basically future royalties. What he did, though, is, so the Stones had they had a music company called Nanker Felge Music. So Klein started a company called Nanker Felge USA. And apparently all that 1.25 million, he was the sole president and stockholder. That went all into his company, in the US company. They didn't see any of that. And so this was all done without them knowing. The contract that they had signed with him said that he would not have to release that money to them for 20 years. That's the contract that they had, the fine print. He also tricked them into surrendering their publishing rights to all their recordings. So basically, Klein ended up owning all the North American rights to everything the Stones had produced under contract with Decca Records until their contract would expire in 1971. So, that Hot Rocks double album, that's like their greatest hits, 64 to 71. Dude, that's the Stones' best-selling album. And he got all the North American proceeds off of that.
Damn, dude,
it's pretty crazy.
That is real shit.
Yeah.
I have a copy of that on vinyl too.
So do I. Yeah.
And dude, but I'm throwing out a big
WTF ITS. Yeah.
Fuck is that shit?
So that was part of their financial problems. But then, so in the mid 60s in England, the tax rate for wealthier citizens was 83%.
Yeah.
Then on top of that, there was a super tax of 15%. So their rate was like 98%. I think Bill Wyman or somebody said, he was like, if you made like $1 million, you get to keep like 70 grand, whatever.
Well, yeah,
whatever that percentage.
And that prompted the song "Taxman" by the Beatles. Mm-hmm. And I actually had heard stories on the Disgraceland podcast of this, where part of what they would do is when they were in the U.S., it was a little different, right? And so, why can't I think of their manager's name? I mean,
Brian Epstein?
Yeah, Epstein would try to do a lot of stuff in cash, and they would like smuggle suitcases of cash around to them.
Sure.
Well, dude, I don't blame them. Over a 90% tax rate.
Dude, that's
Fuck
insane.
You.
Yeah, that's insane.
All to make sure that those people, that the royal family doesn't have to lift a finger.
Yeah. Yeah.
Somebody's got to pay for them to do nothing.
Yeah. Well, since then, they've moved their financial affairs to Holland in the Caribbean, which lowers their tax liability. So they've found ways around it. I can't wait till this show makes it and we get to do those fun little tax things and we're like,
Caymans.
really big and it's gonna be
Caymans.
awesome. We get to trumpet, right?
Oh yeah,
sweet. So essentially, they owed all these back taxes because nobody had paid mixed taxes. He had no idea. And so instead, everything was all their assets were going to get seized. And the only way to get out of it was to really just hey, we got to get out of the country so we can get some money so that way we can eventually pay all this off. We just can't be, citizens anymore.
Yeah.
And so essentially they decided to move to the south of France. Well, most of them did, but Mick got married to Bianca at that point. He was
they lived in Paris.
Yeah.
Charlie Watts, I think, said he lived like a 7-hour drive.
7-hour drive. Yeah. From Nice. I think Keith's villa was in Nice, I believe. And they were all just kind of spread out, and people would show even with the whole recording process, people would just kind of show up some days, not show up. They even said Mick wasn't even there a whole lot because he didn't put really I don't think he put any of his vocals in at the villa using that. He put, when they went to LA afterwards and they did overdubs.
Where that was.
they did all the vocal work.
Well, it was interesting because I saw that he became much more involved during that part of the process, and concurrently Keith's daily heroin habit kind of took him over a little bit. So Mick kind of pulled it together there.
He did. Well, so I know you've seen Stones in Exile, and if people haven't seen this documentary, it's awesome. It's amazing. If you're a huge Stones fan, there's just great photos, interviews with people. A lot of it's just kind of voiceover interviews, and they show footage from back in the day and stuff that they had, but it basically tells kind of the whole story of how this came to be. But it's got great photos and videos of like the villa and everything where they recorded it. But you'll kind of hear that it becomes very apparent that it was a shit show, basically, is what it was. I mean, there's no better way to really say it, right?
But man, it sounds like they really, much like I am this summer, they really focused on just having a good summer, and they did.
Yeah.
And it was funny because despite all the craziness, and apparently there were Keith got hooked up with these gangsters from Crete. Yeah. And those were the guys who were bringing over like all the heroin. Yeah. So it was interesting. Yeah. Because they said that where this is located, you got Marseille on one side and then Italy on another. So he's like, basically anything you want between the mafia and everything that was going on in Marseille, like you could get anything you wanted. No problem. Yeah. Right. And I guess there were a couple close calls with the police, but nothing that resulted in like a bust or anything. But apparently when they left that villa, it's not so much that they were asked to leave, but they were just kind of ahead of it. Yeah, it was just time to get out of there.
Yeah. Well, so some of the, I guess I would say, roadblocks that they had in recording in this villa. So what they did was they get down to France and they go around and they look at all these recording studios and they're like, yeah, these aren't going to work for us. Like, we're the Rolling Stones. We need like something better. But they had this, the mobile truck studio, which they had partially used, I think, to record Sticky Fingers, because they were recording at Jagger's house for that. Led Zeppelin used that for some recording on their albums three and four, part of 4. They started recording some of it, and then somebody got sick. I don't know. Maybe that was on Led Zeppelin 3. Yeah, that was on 3. And I think they used a little part of it on 4. It said, but this house, I mean, it's just like this huge villa, right? It's this huge just mansion, and the basement though had like 3 levels to it, and all different rooms were all different shapes and sizes, and they had different barriers. And they said they were like, yeah, it was kind of hard because we'd be in different rooms and we couldn't see each other. It was like hot and humid and dusty, and because it was hot and humid, the instruments constantly went out of tune. Yeah, which is a huge deal. But also they didn't have your standard like control booth, right? Where it's like, hey, I'm over here in this room recording, I can talk to you. Yeah. So they're like passing messages and like yelling down hallways and running down to like relay things, and it was just not probably the most efficient way to record an album.
No, I can't imagine just like doing something in that kind of heat. That sounds so miserable, man.
Yeah. I mean, I probably didn't have air conditioning back then.
No, well, no.
At least at this house.
And dude, the crazy thing is the basement should theoretically be one of the colder parts of the house.
Totally, right? Yeah. Well, also, as you've mentioned that, Keith and his girlfriend at the time were very, very heavy into heroin. Like, pretty Anita crazy.
Ellenberg.
Like, yeah. And at one point, I guess they were so strung out that they like set their bed on fire in their house. Like, that's cool.
I would believe that.
But like you were saying, dude, they were hooked up with some drug dealers, but then they had like friends and celebrities, like John Lennon came and visited. And apparently, though, like all these people are staying there. You have all these random people showing up, and I guess people showed up and they stole like, I think it's between
8
like
guitars,
11 and 11 guitars. There was a bunch of different numbers that
and they said they just walked out the door with them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Plain and simple as that, because everything was so chaotic, you know?
Yeah. Nobody was managing the house. I have a feeling they, it wasn't like, hey, okay, don't forget to set the alarm before you leave, right?
Yeah. Well, and one of the people that was there is kind of an interesting musician that that really doesn't get talked about a lot, but I've heard some things about him. His name is Graham Parsons.
Yes.
And
I've heard that name too.
He released an album that is pretty highly regarded, is kind of like a underground thing. But apparently everyone says he was really good. And Keith Richards was pretty influenced by him because he was more like, you've heard of the genre like alt country, right? Well,
Yeah.
it's not like the commercial crap that comes out, but it's like what country was meant to be, kind of.
Okay.
Well,
All right.
people say that Graham Parsons invented alt country, right? And so apparently he was there for a while, and he was kind of an influence on Keith and his songwriting and stuff like that. But
Nice.
apparently Mick Jagger did not dig him
No.
that much. And eventually, I think Graham Parsons was kind of asked to leave.
Yeah, I heard that too. I think he was pretty influential in a lot of the drugs that were also going on there.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
He may well have been part of the reason that Keith and Anita Pallenberg got so deep into heroin.
Hooked on it. Yeah. Thanks for that, buddy.
And I think at that time, I don't know if he had any money. So he's just kind of,
Yeah. Well, so the interesting thing with this is people, not only were just people coming and going, but band members were coming and going. Like, Mick would kind of show up, and Charlie Watts would be around, and then Mick Taylor would go, but then Bill Wyman would show up, or he wouldn't be there at certain times. And they would a lot of times start recording really, really late at night, and then just record all night, like into the morning.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of like, it seemed like it was just like band by committee, like whoever was there could play. Like this guy, Jimmy Miller, he played drums on a couple songs on Happy and Shine a Light, I guess. And Bill Wyman.
He's the producer of the album.
Yeah, right.
And
right.
that's what's weird is I haven't really heard of him as a producer from that time.
So the funny thing is though, too, and you get different stories from Mick and Keith. One thing that Mick said is like, he was like, yeah, went to LA to mix the album, and Jimmy was the producer and was supposed to be there like doing that, but he was like way too strung out to be doing it. And so Mick was just like, yeah, I basically just had to do it.
Huh.
Yeah. But so he played drums on some songs. And they said like technically Bill Wyman is only credited with playing bass on 8 songs. He says he played more.
Yeah.
But Mick Taylor said that he played bass on a couple of songs, and then Bill Wyman later was like, no, he didn't do that. I put the bass part in for that song. And it's just like, they probably don't even know. I mean, there were probably times where they were recording tracks and they both put bass parts in. And I don't even know if they listen to the track, if they could be like, oh yeah, that's me. Right. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, basically when they got done, they kind of, things ran their course, as you said, and it was just time to go. Yeah. And so they ended up just going to LA, and that's where they were going to mix the album. Now, most of the basic tracks had been done at the Villa, and then also some tracks had been done a few years early, a year or so earlier during the Sticky Finger sessions. So some of the songs did transition over from the Sticky Finger sessions.
I think one of those was Happy, wasn't it?
I believe it was. Yeah, so I think there was about 4 or 5. And here's the deal with that. Those 4 or 5, Alan Klein ended up suing the Stones for, because those were recorded during those times and sessions. So he said he owned the rights to them. So I'm pretty sure that one, Sweet Virginia, was one of them. I believe Ventilator Blues was one of them. Yeah, man. So they got kind of screwed on a few of those.
Dude, they should have had that guy killed.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really it's so devious too, because he did it all within the bounds of what's illegal, but it's so incredibly unethical. It's just disgusting.
It is. It is. Well, there were many, many lawsuits over the years after that, and I think eventually they did settle things. But I mean, yeah, the Stones were pretty stressed during this time period, so they stuck to a very high drug regimen.
Yeah, it looks that way.
So one thing though that I read, and I find this, dude, again, this is where sort of, I guess
accounts
kind of vary a little bit. Well, one, Mick was very, very confused as to why fans loved it so much. He was like, one, because we talked about, he was like, only really 3 of the songs got decent radio play. And he's like, many of the songs have actually never been played live, which is, I was really surprised. Once they started like talking about them, I was like, wow, yeah, a bunch of these songs have really never been played live or only played once.
I wouldn't imagine they ever played I Just Want to See His Face. I mean, you could kind of go through and just look at some and be like, I
they played Sweep Like Angel once in Fort Worth.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah. But again, like just very, very rarely. Now, it's kind of been accounted that like how we've just kind of talked about, like, they were all over the place. Mick was over there. Sometimes they record with Charlie Watts. Other times, it looks like Jimmy Miller put some drums in and stuff. But then Keith was basically quoted as saying, is like, oh, I loved it. It was like one of my favorite times and favorite albums because like we were all working together. And I'm like, dude, you really were strung out on heroin because basically everybody and the documentary basically say that was not the case.
Yeah. So, but I think
misremember that.
Probably just interesting too, because, we've talked a lot about other albums that were recorded at a house. And this idea that you live and work in this environment. And for him, dude, the party's always at his house and everyone's always coming over. So it probably felt that way.
Yeah, I'm sure. Absolutely, man. Absolutely. But I think one thing, I don't know, we can probably get into the tracks here in a minute, but one thing that they were talking about, I think it was Keith Richards, they were talking about how Mick and Keith were trying to come up with a track order for this album and just kind of how hard it was. And he was like, Keith was like, yeah, he's like, I'd send a cassette to Mick in the middle of the night and, put like his version of what he thought the order should be at the door. And then Mick would be like, oh, hey, it's, he would be sending it, Mick would send his to Keith. And then Keith would listen to it. He's like, yeah, that's pretty good. But you've got 4 songs in a row in the same key. We can't do that. And just, kind of things like that. And he was just like, you come across all these sort of problems that you never thought of. And he was like kind of making a jigsaw puzzle fit, right?
Well, yeah, and it sounds like that because I guess I always knew about like this being recorded at Nelcott, and you heard kind of like these stories about that, but you really get a feel for it in watching that documentary, right? But I didn't realize that so much of the vocals and all the background stuff, which makes a lot of those songs, was done in LA. And so you got to figure, dude, they probably had just hours of just like jams.
Yeah.
And then you take this and you wind up in LA and it's kind of like, what the hell are we going to do with this now?
Well, especially when you have all these different people playing parts and putting stuff in. I mean, basically, they must have just had all this material. We're like, all right, I guess we got to start going through this and just see what the hell we even have here, right? And like, see how much of this is usable. Because,
that's it.
Because especially if you're, everybody's all wasted and stuff. Like, you're like, oh, yeah, this sounds great. And then you kind of listen to it and you're like, oh, yeah, we should maybe redo that one. So I just find it interesting that, I mean, a project like that just must have been massive to go through, especially back in the day when you're doing like analog tape.
Dude, they must have had like just a crate's worth of tape from this. Oh,
it must have been just insane to go through.
Because I don't know. Well, number one, watching it, I couldn't tell. I mean, it looked like 2-inch 24-track tape, but I don't know if that was invented yet. So it may have been a little less in terms of how many tracks it could support. But I mean, you're talking big, fat, metal reels, but I don't know what a reel of tape would get you in terms of time.
That's
which
true.
Also depends on what speed you record. I mean, there's a lot of variables, but on average, on the highest possible fidelity, what is a reel of tape going to get you in terms of time?
Yeah. Well, and plus it's like, and how efficient were they recording? You know, how like the engineers, like when they were, you know, were they like labeling stuff? Or they like writing it down? I mean,
I would think so.
I would
because
hope so.
dude, you had to document back then because you couldn't just like, you know, save the different versions. And somebody said that like Mick and Keith kind of had different styles of recording, and Keith was like, you know, you'd record a song 20 times and then maybe you'd rethink something and record it 20 more times.
Yeah. Well, I forget what song. We'll get to it in a little bit, but they were like, apparently there were like somewhere between, they said between 30 and 100 reels of tape just for the basic tracks. Because they just kept like, they couldn't get a good take of it. And so they just kept going and going and going. So I don't know about you, Grim, but maybe we could kind of get into the tracks here.
Yeah, there's just one little thing that I wanted to touch on regarding the technical personnel for the album.
All right.
So again, I had mentioned how, you know, you hear of a lot of famous producers throughout the year or throughout the years, and especially during this time period too. I had not heard of Jimmy Miller, but one person that I had heard about was someone who's credited as an engineer, and that's Glenn Johns. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I believe he's responsible for most of Led Zeppelin's production.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes.
Cool.
And I think he also did the first two albums by the Eagles, which, you know, just like Lebowski says, you know, it's been a long night. And anyways, but I just thought that was interesting, and I wonder why he wasn't the main producer. I just a question, if anyone out there knows, or what else did Jimmy Miller do as a producer? I mean, I could look it up right now, but I guess I should have done a little more homework there. But anyways,
is your homework, Larry?
Dude, we know it's his homework.
Yeah. So let's get into the tracks here. It's a double album. For those of you who have been with us for a while now, we've done a few double albums. I think we've done Physical Graffiti by Led Zeppelin. We did the Beatles White Album. And typically what we do is we go through, and we also did Nine Inch Nails' The Fragile. But we'll go through and we'll talk about each song. And what we've done for the other ones is we've made like a single disc. Now, I don't know if we want to go through and, you know, we won't do that here, but
in the comments section
in the
below.
comments. Yeah. In the comments below.
Like after you go ahead and, you know,
like, subscribe, and comment.
Yeah. Check out the comments.
Yeah. If you want to give us like if you could pick like one disc of songs, which is about 40 some minutes.
To be safe, I'd give you 24 minutes max aside. That's being, cool. I think, generous-ish.
Yeah. So anyways, it's a fun game to play. Now, that doesn't mean that we would want this to be a single disc because, dude, this album is amazing. I love that it's double disc. I love that
me
so
too.
Much material.
But I do like that game. That was a fun one with the White Album.
Yeah, totally. So if you want to have fun with us, do that. All right, Grim. Side 1, track 1, disc 1. Get your rocks off. Rocks off.
Might be my favorite song on the album.
Whoa. Wow.
Easy. Okay, well, dude, I don't know, because then we're gonna throw in Ventilator Blues and a couple other ones, and dude, hard to top. But dude, Rocks Off is easily like in my top 2, I'll say, on this album.
I mean, dude, it's such a great way to start the album, you know, kind of with that nasty little guitar riff, and then mix like or whatever he says, right? And then, dude, the song just really moves. It's got a good groove to it.
That horn part just makes it at the end.
It's the horn part, because all of a sudden, when that comes out, it's like, oh wow, this is something kind of a new element that we haven't heard from the Stones really before.
Yeah.
At least not in this way. And you hadn't really, I mean, I'm trying to think if I just think about Rocks Off and I'm thinking about their previous albums, I don't think I'd heard a song like that. Like if this song was on one of those albums, it would be a real outlier.
Yeah.
Right. So
yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So for what it's worth, dude, Jimmy Miller, I guess, produced the big 4 albums for the Stones. Yeah, it looks like he did all of them.
Dang. All right.
So anyways, that's just an FYI.
Why? All right.
So then you don't slow down going in to rip this joint. I mean, that one is almost, but it's almost more in your face.
It is, right? Yeah.
Just the way the vocals are delivered. I mean, it's like an assault kind of.
It definitely is. Like Rocks Off starts off, it's really upbeat, but Rip This Joint, they definitely pick up the pace even more.
In there.
Just keep it going.
Kind of like on time on Californication. Yeah. That's like they're right on time.
It is pretty much. No, it has a really, really fast guitar riff. I dig it. And so here's the thing. I believe, so Nicky Hopkins plays piano on Rocks Off. And I believe he plays piano on Rip This Joint as well. When I was listening to it at first, I thought maybe it was Billy Preston, but he only gets credit for Shine a Light. So I'm pretty sure that's Nicky Hopkins that we're hearing play the piano on this song. And because I didn't see anyone else getting credit for it.
Yeah.
Moving on to Shake Your Hips. Now, dude, this is just kind of like they got what I love about this album is some real dirty blues, right? And
this is that.
This is definitely that. But this is I believe a cover. Is that correct?
Yeah, by Slim Harpo. Now it's funny because Slim Harpo was obviously an American blues musician, but they call him like one of the leading people in what they would call the swamp blues style. Oh. And I feel like you could this is swamp
blues. Yeah. Gosh, when here's the thing, they need to come up with better genres like that. All right, we can't have country and alternative country. Can we have it like dude, blues and then dude, swamp blues? I like that.
Yeah,
it's yeah. Come on, so let's get a little more creative.
All country could just be called like good country,
swamp country,
swamp country. Yeah.
So, dude, we move on to Casino Boogie, and one thing that I've always loved about this song, and we've heard of other artists do this with some songs. Gosh, there was one not too long ago we did. It was more of a modern artist, but lyrically they write down a bunch of phrases on paper. And then they cut it up into sections, throw in a hat, and then they pick out the words. And that's what they did here with Casino Boogie. The cool thing about it is the order, apparently the order that they actually picked them out of the hat is the order that they are recorded in the song. So I was just like, oh, that's pretty cool.
For those phrases which makes sense because they seemingly would. Yeah. But I like how Mick and Keith, they for some reason their voices work well when they're together, balanced right, and this is a good example of that. And then I kind of like how they're doing those phrases, then Mick will take off somewhere else on his own.
Right.
But I think they do a really good job with the vocals on that one.
Yeah, it is funny because especially with Keith. I mean, you wouldn't say like he's an amazing vocalist.
No, I would not say that.
He has his sound, but he doesn't need to be. You're like, it's okay.
It's like, meant to be with Keith or with Mick. Sorry. Yeah,
exactly.
And when that happens, it's great.
Yeah, exactly. So then we move on to maybe Tumbling Dice. I believe this was the single from the first single from the album, and probably the song I think most people, if you haven't heard this album, you've heard this
probably
song.
Heard this song.
It's played at pretty much every live show that they do.
It's a great song.
Yeah, it is. It is. Now, dude, originally though, it was called Good Time Woman, and it was recorded during the Sticky Finger sessions.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah. And so
one thing I gotta say about this song is the bass does it all in this song.
Which, do you know who played bass?
Mick Taylor.
Yes, he did. Apparently Bill Wyman wasn't there. Now, Bill might take issue with that, but from what I saw, Mick Taylor is credited with bass riffs.
Well,
and this is the song. This is the song, Grim, where they say there were between 30 and 100 reels of tape for that. So.
Yeah. Well, they did choose the right one. What does it say? Tumbling Dice. Mick Taylor. It says Mick Taylor bass on the vinyl.
Whoa. All right.
So
the thing about this dude is, Mick Jagger, he also said that he doesn't really like this album a whole lot. Like the album as a whole. He doesn't really like it. And the biggest reason I think he said he doesn't like it, he's like, it really just needs to be remixed. It's not mixed right.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. Spinal Tap saw that firsthand.
Him and Janine would be like, but he's definitely said he didn't like the final mixing of this song. So.
Oh, sorry. I disagree.
I think it's great, dude.
Dude, that bass line carries it when they go into that, baby. Like the bass line that transitions into that is just fantastic to me. It carries the whole thing.
The background vocals, so good. All right, Graham, we're going to flip sides here. Mm-hmm. Track one on side two. One of my favorite songs on the album, Sweet Virginia. And the instrumentation is just phenomenal. I love the acoustic guitar, the harmonica, the mandolin, right? That's a mandolin in there, I'm sure, right? Yeah. I mean, dude, it has this it just has such a country, like hillbilly blues feel to it. It's just, it's such a beautiful song. The lyrics are great. I mean, it's just, it's badass.
Well, one thing I kind of picked up from the Stones in Exile thing is, Keith was talking about his kind of fondness for American country music. And one thing that he brought up that he thought was interesting is, and I love how he says it too. He's like, the American hillbillies, they just have some interesting subject matter. And it's funny. I mean, it's not wrong. They do. And when you think about it, this song is, I think, kind of goes with that.
Definitely.
It's like their take on that, or what?
It certainly does. And I believe it was Mick who said, or it's kind of what they were talking about it, is that, was it? Oh yeah. So this song kind of being heavily influenced sort of by the drug fueled atmosphere in the villa that they're in. And that's where they get the, drop your reds, drop your greens and blues.
Oh,
hide the speeds inside your boot. And, one of my favorite lines is thank you for your wine, California. Thank you for your sweet and bitter fruit. It's just, there's just some really, really good lyrics and lines in the song. I'm just huge.
Dude, you got to scrape that shit right off your shoes. I love that line. That is a really good one.
It's cool because they don't really swear very often in their songs.
Don't. They don't.
That's done very tastefully. So I dig it.
Yeah. Agree.
Going on to Torn and Frayed, my friend.
Oh, I like this one too. And to me, it kind of picks up very well right after Sweet Virginia, because it's very similar stylistically. And I don't know.
You know what song it kind of reminds me of that is off Beggar's Banquet is it reminds me of the subject matter, Jigsaw Puzzle.
Yeah. Agreed.
Because they talk, because in Jigsaw Puzzle it's sort of autobiographical, where you're talking about in the whatever, the drummer, he's always on, he's on time or whatever. But then in this one they're talking about the ballrooms and smelly bordellos and dressing rooms filled with parasites. On stage the band has got problems, they're a bag of nerves on first nights, like just things like that to me, that is just, it's so autobiographical for them. And I feel like Jigsaw Puzzle has a lot of those elements in it. So I kind of think of these songs as sort of like, second cousins,
kindred
or something
spirits.
Like that. Kindred spirits, blood brothers, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. Move on now. Maybe Sweet Black Angel. Another one of my favorites, man.
You could never get away with it lyrically today.
Yeah. I was just going to say, you could not get away with it today. So if you do listen to lyrics and listen a little closely, there's a word that should not be used.
Well, and just the idea of singing a song, she's a sweet black angel, not a sweet black slave. I mean, that's pretty blatant right there too.
Well, so here's the thing. The song is actually, it's about Angela Davis, who was a civil rights activist. And at this time, she was actually facing murder charges. So I don't know a whole lot more about her and those charges and everything, but that's when I was doing research. That's what I found out about.
Oh, wow.
So I think
I would like to read up more on that.
Yeah, it doesn't name her specifically, but that I guess is who inspired the song. And dude, for me, I love the acoustics in this song. I guess, what is that, like a washboard? What's the percussion that they're kind of playing on?
I think I think it is.
Okay. And
I mean, they don't call it out specifically, but and I think they use a lot of like alternate percussion in this one.
Yeah. Now I guess this is another song I believe that probably Alan Klein got rights to, because the initial recordings were done at Jagger's house during the Sticky Fingers sessions. So.
Well, you know what I have to say about that?
What the fuck is that shit?
We're going to finish disc 1 with Love and Cup, my friend.
Yeah.
Now, have you ever seen the, they did a few years ago, Martin Scorsese did this documentary on the Stones playing a live show. And
I have not watched that.
Okay. So the cool thing about it is so they, they're playing this, I don't know if it's a, for charity or for what it is, but they're playing some sort of special concert. And so they're playing a bunch of songs and everything, but then they bring musical guests out to play with them. And the musical guest that they bring out to play this song with them is Jack White, which is pretty neat. Yeah.
That is cool.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. This is also another song that Alan Clyde sued them for. So,
wow.
Also, really there is a different. So apparently, though, there's a different version, and I have the deluxe version of this song, but during the Let It Bleed sessions, they recorded a version of this song that is apparently say it's different, pretty different than this, or at least I don't know if it was the piano intro or something, but I'd have to listen to it and kind of compare.
Oh yeah, I would like to. And that's is that the stuff that's on this? Oh yeah, on the reissue from 2010.
Yeah,
I would imagine that's on probably like whatever streaming service you use. I haven't listened to that disc, but I really do want to listen to it now after.
Yeah, the main song off that disc that I've heard a bunch of times. What is it? Plundered by my soul. Plundered my soul. Yeah, when I used to listen to this album, I would just kind of listen to it all the way through, and it would just kind of roll into those bonus songs. But yeah, Plundered My Soul. What else is there? Yeah, there's a Love and Cup alternate take, Soul Survivor alternate take, All Down the Line alternate take, and Good Time Woman, which, what did we just say? That was
Tumbling Dice, wasn't it?
Tumbling Dice, yeah. So it's pretty cool that, they got some different versions of tracks. Always fun to kind of listen to that. So, all right, Grim, moving on, disc 2.
Yeah. Keith Richards' own.
I know, right?
Happy, yeah.
He gets what, one song an album, sort of.
Yeah, dude, you got the silver. What's that on Let It Bleed? I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he every once in a while there's one where he sings.
Yeah.
It's almost like as sparse as the ones Ringo sings.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, definitely. Although you probably like this one better than Octopus's Garden, I'm guessing.
That would be a fair statement. I do. Yeah.
Well, I think it's a cool way to start the second disc. Start it with the Keith song.
Oh, dude, yeah, and the riff is a good riff to start with. The way the song kind of kicks in. I hear
it kind of, to me, it kind of has a similar feel almost to how Rocks Off starts the album, just with the beat and the tempo and everything. Like, it just kind of has that, just has that feel. So apparently, though, Keith said that they just recorded that like one afternoon in France, and he said it took about 4 hours, and that was it. It was just like done.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. He was like,
and
I think He was like, oh, I think we started at noon or something like that. And he was like, the song didn't exist before then. And then 4 hours later, it was done. So.
Well, that's interesting because he's also credited as playing bass on it. Jimmy Miller plays drums. Bobby. So, yeah, that makes sense. Like, nobody else was around. It
was like those couple guys. Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool.
So, Grim, now we have an interesting song, interesting title. Turd on the Run. I mean, first of all, the song is a very funny song. It kind of sounds like, I don't know what a turd on the run sounds like, but if I had to, it would be like this, the way the song kind of moves. But
it feels to me a lot like Shake Your Hips.
Okay.
But faster, faster.
Yeah.
And I've always just liked the I've lost a lot of nerve over you. I think that's a good line.
Totally. Well, I just can't imagine, being in a band, be like, oh, I don't know, dude, what should we call this song? I know. Turd on the Run. That, yeah. Okay. Let's just stick with that.
Yeah. I know.
Maybe we should put that out as a single. All right, Graham. Now we get to,
dude.
The one we've all been waiting for.
Yeah.
Ventilator Blues.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So, yeah, dude. I guess I said it that Rocks Off was one of my top 3 on the album, dude. Those top 3 are Rocks Off, Ventilator Blues, and I Just Want to See His Face.
Okay.
The transition is so wonderful.
Oh, it's phenomenal. I love the transition as well. It's great.
And just the Wurlitzer sounds so nice on that song. They got the vibrato up on there. It's got such a good, and dude, again, background vocals really making that song. It's just got, it's kind of got like a spiritual sound to it.
Oh, yeah,
but it's almost haunting. Yeah, I kind of jumped ahead with Ventilator Blues. So let's back up a second.
Yeah. Well, dude, so apparently Mick Taylor gets writing credit because he's the one who came up with that nasty riff. Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah.
Ding, ding. It's just the way it just kind of it is so dirty and it kind of hops along. It has this almost sinister sort of feel to it.
Oh,
I think, right? And and the way he sings it too, he kind of shouts it, and he's got a little attitude, kind of.
Oh,
when
dude,
when he sing it,
dude. We all need some kind of ventilator, and I love he says, "Go on and get it."
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah.
So, such a good song, and I like the bit about where apparently they had done takes of this or versions, and the drumming was different. And it was Bobby Keys who actually said something to Charlie Watts, and he was like, I feel like you really got to hit it on the 2 and 4 instead of like,
Okay.
And it was funny because when he's recounting this, he's like, who the hell is Bobby Keys to tell Charlie Watts how to play the drums? But he was so gracious.
That's right.
And then Charlie Watts is recounting it, and he, of course, he's very humble about it. And he said, yeah, Bobby Keys suggested this, and it kind of worked after that point.
Right.
But yeah, it's,
dude,
good song.
It's amazing, dude.
And so, yeah, then into I Just Want to See His Face. And
oh yeah, the transition is really good. I mean, the Stones are not one of those bands where you typically say like, oh man, that transition into that song.
Yeah.
That's just not something they do.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. But this one does it so well. And I actually, so continuing on, I really like Let It Loose as well.
Let It Loose. Oh, it is, dude. It's nice because the song starts a little more slow and kind of chill, right? Mm-hmm. Which I really dig. And dude, the guitar, the way it sounds is amazing.
I was just gonna go there.
Uh-huh. And I'm just going to let you take it because I have it in my notes, but this is more your specialty. So I just want to hear you.
Oh, so let me guess. It says that Keith Richards recorded his guitar through a Leslie organ speaker on fast speed. That's probably exactly what it says, isn't it?
I mean, actually, well, all I had was through a Leslie speaker. So you just went above and beyond.
Well, because the Leslie speakers, it's a moving horn.
Right.
And a moving baffle. And I have one in the corner over here you can't see, but And I have a thing where you can run a guitar through it, and that's the sound. It's that, that kind of vibrato, but it's different than like a vibrato pedal because it doesn't like chop the signal up. It just kind of swirls it around, and it's such a nice effect, and I think it is so well done. But anyways, there's a slow and a fast speed, and the slow just kind of has this haunting, like, think about how the guitar sounds when they play the riff, and I know the riff on Shine On You Crazy Diamond parts 1 through 5. I think that's through a Leslie speaker on slow speed. It sounds like it's moving, but you almost can't tell. Right. But this one, it's very fast.
Sweet.
Yeah,
they're very fast.
Nerd alert. Yeah.
All right, now we gotta flip the record again. All Down the Line. Another fast pick-me-up song. I feel like each side is, starts with something. Sweet Virginia, I guess, is a little slower, but 3 of the 4 sides all have something that really kind of move.
Yeah.
You gotta move. Now, I believe that I think they said Mick Taylor plays the slide on this. Is that right?
I would believe that.
Yeah.
Well, like the slide guitar, you're saying, right?
Well, yeah. But it was also, Mick Taylor, I think, is credited with playing the guitar on this, and they said Keith did rhythm. So that's just
I would believe that because if you think about, dude, that main riff for Ventilator Blues, there's sliding there,
right?
I think he's wearing it on his pinky or something, so just he can jump up to that minor third above and. But yeah, I like this song, and it's one of those ones, like the next song is another cover on the album.
Right. Stop
this sounds like one where I almost, just because of the way the lyrics and the thematic kind of subject matter of the song, I guess I could have believed like this would have been a cover if you didn't know better.
Oh, All Down the Line?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I could see that. I could see that.
But to me, I guess that speaks of like what a good job they do just capturing that style. They
do. Well, the thing with I shouldn't say they captured it too well, but so with Stop Breaking Down, apparently that is a Robert Johnson song.
Yep.
And they were sued in 2000 by Robert Johnson's estate, saying that the song was not in the public domain. So apparently they either never gave him royalties, or I'm not really sure what the deal was. I'm surprised it took until 2000 for that to happen.
Dude, at that point, that person's related to him about as much as I am. I mean, dude, he died a long time ago, man. And dude, and I wonder what that estate looks like, because he may have had a lot of kids, but I think the story goes is that, dude, he was killed by a jealous husband.
Oh, really?
He was poisoned. Yeah, I mean, dude, Robert Johnson is the one that the story of selling your soul at the crossroads is about. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, a lot of people, I think Clapton's one of them who considers him just the absolute pinnacle of just the early blues. A lot of people do. He's not my favorite, but I have his big compilation discs of all his recordings. And I mean, dude, so many people have covered him.
Right.
Led Zeppelin teased stuff from him on the Lemon song.
Tons of people. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, sure his estate's doing okay, even though it's probably divided up, but yeah.
Yeah.
All right. We got 2 tracks left, Grim. Shine a Light. Again, this is probably maybe one of the more popular songs. They do play it live, I think. And that might contribute to it. But I guess Mick started writing this song in 1968 when Brian Jones was still a member of the band. And it was actually called Get a Line on You. And it dealt with, basically what it dealt with was Jones's addiction to not only to drugs, but then also his detachment from the band.
Wow.
So it was like, get a line on you. And as we know, sadly, Brian
he didn't make it. And then he changed it to Shine a Light on You.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
so maybe a little more of a tribute, I guess, in that sense.
Yeah, but that's kind of cool if it started out that way and then it kind of became that.
Right.
That's interesting.
I guess Mick Taylor plays guitar and bass on this track. Although this is one of those ones that Wyman says that he's wrong and Wyman played bass on it. So I'm fine with either. It's not a big deal to me.
I think it came out fine. So.
Yeah. Good job, both of you.
Yeah.
I'll give both of you credit.
Yeah.
So I'm sure whoever played it, the other one influenced them. We'll just leave it at that.
Without a doubt.
Influence. Yeah. All right. We finished the album, Grim, with Soul Survivor.
This one says it's based by Keith Richards, by the way.
All right. Can somebody please clear this up? Because
dude, this is written on the vinyl. This is not out of a Wikipedia entry or anything. So
yeah. Jace, let's get it together.
And it is also listed in the wiki article too that he played bass on that one.
Dude, that's amazing. Freaking love it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Anyways,
okay. I bet Jagger played bass on it too. I mean, while we're at it, maybe Bobby Keys. So yeah, dude, Soul Survivor. Dude, it's kind of like and again, it's sort of a nastier little blues song. He says you're going to be the death of me a lot. So I have a feeling.
Yeah.
I'm just speculating, could be talking to a woman, maybe some woman from the past. Who knows? But I mean, it's got, again, great background vocals, and it's, I don't know. It's a good song.
So here we are.
I scratched first.
You did.
Right? Did I? I did.
Now, this is not the first double we've done, and typically what we would do is we would say, well, I mean, the way the game works based on reality is that you could theoretically have a song on each disc that would be scratched. So I guess I'll go through what that would be, but if we were just scratching one, I also know what that would be.
Okay, so you're going to start, are you starting with the discs, disc one, or are you going to start with your overall scratch?
I'll start with my overall scratch.
Okay, give it to me.
Stop Breaking Down.
Okay. Any particular reason, my friend?
No, I mean, I don't know. It's just, I don't know. It's okay. It's just not one of my favorites. I think that I guess I like the feel of the other cover on the album a lot more than this one.
Okay. That's fair.
It's a fairly, I mean, if you know Robert Johnson's catalog, I think it'd be considered one of the more famous, I guess, for lack of a better word.
Okay. I gotcha.
So being that is on disc 2, that would also be my scratch for disc 2. Now, if I had to do something off of both, and I had to do one off of disc 1, I would probably do Rip This Joint.
Ooh, okay. Okay.
And again, not that I don't like it, it's just such a barrage.
It is. It is a barrage. You're right. It is a barrage. I don't know. I think I kind of like the barrage to start the album, but yeah, I can see that because Rocks Off is pretty up there, but then Rip This Joint just yeah, exactly. It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess my overall scratch, I am gonna do Soul Survivor.
Okay.
And
Shine a Light wouldn't be a bad way to end the album either.
That's kind of my main thing. A lot of times when I get done with Shine a Light, I'm kind of like, okay, I'm good.
The album's over.
Yeah, I'm good. Like, it's not, whatever. I mean, not if I'm listening to it on vinyl, but it's definitely, I'm just like, yeah, I'm good. And that's my main reason. I mean, I think it's a fine song. But I didn't really have much to say about it either. There's not. I mean, I do like Soul Survive. I do like that, but
I know, dude.
Nothing else really stands out on the song to me. That's just me. Yeah. So that would be my overall and disc 2 scratch. Now, my disc 1 scratch. This once we started talking about it, dude, I'm actually going to go with Love and Cup.
I could see that.
It's one that I do find myself skipping. Like I just do. And if in 100% honesty, if I'm listening to this album on my, phone or whatever, and I'm just kind of like, I want to get to some other songs, like I'll go from Sweet Black Angel, like I'll skip a couple. I'll go right into Ventilator Blues. Because
you're skipping. Of course, you're skipping Turd on the Run.
Of course, of course.
Yeah.
But dude, Love and Cup. I don't know. There's something about it. I'm just like, yeah, it's okay. It just again doesn't blow my socks off. Yeah, doesn't blow my socks off. So, all right. Well, hey everyone, let us know what track you would scratch below. Also, we've discussed our favorite tracks a little bit. You've kind of given me your top 3. Mine would be Sweet Virginia, Ventilator Blues. Those are my 2 favorite songs. And I'll just throw in I Just Want to See His Face because they go together so nicely.
Oh, dude. That one's so awesome.
Yeah. So also let us know your favorite tracks. And if you want to play the game and you want to create one disc, well, then that would be fun too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's going to be an interesting one.
Yes. Well, we did a double album here, Grim. It doesn't look like we got it under 1 hour, but dang, we're
close. Real close.
Real close.
For an album of this magnitude, I think it's okay.
Yeah, I mean, you can't blame us. So, all right, Stones fans, time to go.
Scratch a Track is produced by the Dude and Grim. Additional music provided by Moore and the Tims. Copyright 2021, The Dude and Grim Show.